in luxurious silence of mansion in upscale neighborhood, where even air seemed to hold breath. Brutal scene was about to be discovered. Millionaire father returning home without warning found only daughter not in playroom, but on knees, scrubbing kitchen floor with silent tears, while stepmother watched with coldness freezing blood. What that man was about to do would change their lives forever, revealing true monster doesn't hide in shadows, but in full daylight behind perfect smile. Before we unveil every secret of this shocking story, take a second to care for yourself. Subscribe to our channel and hit that bell because stories we share here don't just entertain, remind us of power of truth and justice. Hit like if you believe no child should feel alone. Now get ready, because doors of this mansion are about to open. An elegant neighborhood where impeccable facades and manicured gardens seem to promise perfect life, silent fear hid in little girl's eyes. After beloved wife's death, Alejandro Montesinos had tried to rebuild life for himself and daughter Sophia. A successful businessman accustomed to making quick, efficient decisions, thought most beneficial thing for 8-year-old Sophia was having new mother figure. Was then when Victoria Reyes entered their lives, woman of dazzling elegance, impeccable smile, and exquisite manners in public. To rest of world they formed ideal couple. He businessman whose empire was managed from imposing downtown offices. She refined lady expert at moving gracefully through cocktail parties and charity dinners. What city are you watching this video from, and what time is it? By the way, if you're enjoying my videos, I'd be so happy if you could subscribe to my channel and like this video. If this story has hooked you so far, subscribe to channel. What comes after this moment is even more intense and you won't want to miss it. That spring evening, with air perfumed by approaching festivities, dining room tables sparkled under light of majestic crystal chandelier. Aroma of freshly baked bread filled atmosphere and bottle of red wine rested beside fine porcelain plates. Sophia, little girl with dark curls and large expressive eyes, fidgeted with fork, visibly nervous. Eyes moved restlessly, as if fearing to reveal too much. Alejandro spoke with contagious enthusiasm about imminent business trip to West Coast. Detailed important project in harbor area keeping him busy for at least week. Sophia tried to sketch smile, but inside small heart shrank at prospect of being left alone with Victoria. At young age had already learned to decipher adults' nonverbal language, tense gestures, forced smiles and looks communicating much more than words. Victoria, dressed in sophisticated ivory-colored dress, nodded with serene, understanding expression. Fingers caressed wineglass's edge in apparently innocent gesture, but eyes betrayed something more. Cold, calculating gleam only appearing when Alejandro wasn't watching. Across from her sat son Matthew, who proudly showed off miniature race car mother had bought him that morning at exclusive downtown toy store. Boy laughed with overflowing confidence while Sophia silently lowered gaze toward plate. Dinner passed amid trivial conversations. Alejandro praised quality of hash browns he'd tried at famous restaurant days before, and Victoria feigned interest didn't feel. From background drifted distant laughter and festive music arriving from city where spring celebrations already beginning. However, inside mansion reigned artificial calm, as if walls themselves contained secret about to explode. When dining room clock marked 10 p.m., Alejandro placed fork on plate and firmly announced departure would be first thing next morning. Explained assistants had already organized everything. Car would pick him up early to take to train station where would catch express train. Victoria smiled with barely disguised satisfaction, offering sweet, reassuring words. "Darling, don't worry about anything. Everything here will be perfectly under control." Sophia, on other hand, felt knot-tightening chest. Bread on plate had become impossible to swallow, and looked at father with mute plea in eyes. Small hands gripped tablecloth seeking refuge couldn't find. Nobody noticed silent tears child swallowed, except perhaps Matthew, who at that moment simply continued chewing without saying word. Alejandro, satisfied having left everything organized, raised wineglass to toast. Victoria imitated with impeccable gesture. Sophia raised milk glass, trying with all strength to keep fingers from trembling. Outside, car passed slowly down cobblestone street, lights projecting fleeting shadows through half-open shutters. Air smelled of jasmine, characteristic aroma of spring evenings. "Dad, when will you return?" Sophia whispered, but voice drowned amid clinking of glasses and table's dense silence. As soon as main door closed behind Alejandro's departure, atmosphere in house changed drastically. Victoria's sweet tone and calculated smiles vanished as if by magic. Woman let herself fall heavily on living room sofa. Turned on television at high volume and without even directing gaze, ordered Sophia to clear table. Child obeyed in absolute silence, stacking plates and utensils while strident laughter from TV game show resonated in room. Sophia tried to handle dishes with utmost care, but arms were too small for heavy stack of plates must transport. Walked with unsure steps toward kitchen, and on way Matthew ran past with toy car without offering slightest help. Victoria from sofa raised voice with phrase stabbing Sophia like sharp knife. "If you want dinner tonight, first wash all those glasses well." Child swallowed and nodded, though stomach growled with hunger. Kitchen was illuminated by white cold light making stainless steel sink shine. Sophia placed plates one by one, opened faucet and let water run. Detergent foam rose like small mountains and hands sank in it while fingers began to numb. Each time one of glasses slipped between hands, heart raced, terrified at idea Victoria would hear sound of broken crystal. In living room, Victoria leafed through fashion magazine while Matthew settled into armchair with plate full of cookies. Contrast was desolate, he eating placidly, and Sophia barely able to stand from exhaustion. From time to time, Victoria threw dry, cutting order. "Faster, Sophia, still have to sweep floor." Child barely responded, concentrated on task of not dropping any plate. Minutes became eternity. Hot water reddened skin and silent tear fell onto foam without being able to prevent it. At her age, any child should be playing or reading stories, but Sophia was trapped between dirty dishes and cruel demands of woman who'd never loved her. Matthew observed scene from corner of eye, said nothing, but for first time expression of discomfort drew on face. Saw how Sophia scrubbed glass with such effort knuckles turned white. For instant considered offering one of cookies, but mother's icy look made him desist. He too was prisoner, though in different way, prisoner of blind obedience toward Victoria. When finally finished with dishes, Sophia thought could rest moment. However, Victoria appeared at kitchen threshold, arms crossed. "Still haven't finished. Sweep floor and straighten chairs. Then we'll see if you've earned something for dinner." Child nodded again without protesting. Silence was only armor. From kitchen window could see street illuminated by warm light lampposts. Some families passed returning from fair carrying colorful balloons and bags of churros. Sophia watched while sweeping, yearning to be there with father, enjoying festival treats at town square. Contrast between reality and outside world hurt as much as arms exhaustion. Time passed and house remained impeccable, as if adult employee had worked there for hours. Victoria, satisfied with result, turned off television and took son to bed. Sophia, on other hand, received as dinner piece of stale bread and glass of water. Accepted without complaining, gaze fixed on floor. While slowly chewing that bread, remembered father's words, "Trust Victoria, she'll take care of you." Heart burned, thinking he'd never know truth. Outside, laughter of young people celebrating could be heard on streets. But for Sophia, night was simply well of silence and loneliness. In kitchen's dimness, sink still wet and smell of soap and air, child closed eyes for instant. Tear slid down cheek, mixing with insipid taste of bread. City's festive murmur seemed as distant as absent mother's embrace. From window across street, neighbor Clara observed scene with gesture of deep concern. Had already seen that child work to exhaustion too many times, and inside wondered how long would take father to open eyes. Following days passed with cruel monotony, and Sophia's laughter faded like candle flame on windless night. Each morning rose before any alarm sounded, body sore and hands rough from soap. While other children her age ran toward school with colorful backpacks, she remained trapped in cycle of domestic tasks Victoria imposed with icy authority. Dining room that before had been place of cheerful family chats had transformed into hostile territory. Victoria served abundant breakfast to Matthew. Warm milk, buttered toast with jam and large glass of freshly squeezed orange juice. Sophia, on other hand, received slice of dry bread and sometimes only glass of water. Child ate with lowered gaze, not daring to ask for more. Injustice was so flagrant, even Matthew, mouth full, looked at her sideways and shifted uncomfortably in chair. One gray day, with sky covered by clouds threatening rain, Victoria decided Sophia must thoroughly clean kitchen floor. While Matthew snacked on churros with chocolate mother had bought at one of neighborhood's best confectionaries, Sophia scrubbed on knees. Contrast was cruel. Sweet aroma of chocolate floated in air, but she only felt cold of tiles against skin. At that moment appeared Mrs. Elena, family's former beloved employee, who'd come to return keys had forgotten. Slow walk and warm voice broke kitchen's tense silence. "Sophia, child, what are you doing on floor?" Asked with evident bewilderment. Child raised eyes, cheeks furrowed with tears and wet rag between hands. Victoria hurried to intervene with falsely cordial tone. "Just teaching her discipline, Elena. Nothing to worry about." Words sounded kind, but eyes threw clear warning. Mrs. Elena frowned. Had worked in that house for years, had seen Sophia grow from baby, and knew perfectly how to distinguish between discipline and humiliation. Before could reply, Victoria dismissed with cutting gesture. "Thanks for visit, but now we're busy." Sophia watched as older woman withdrew slowly, not stopping looking at her with deep concern. That instant returned small ray of hope. Someone had seen truth. Someone knew she wasn't imagining things. Afternoon fell over city under dark sky. From window heard drums and guitars of group of young people rehearsing for spring festivities. City's joy seemed parallel universe, separated by walls of that house become prison for child. In living room, Victoria leafed through fashion magazine, completely indifferent to everything. Matthew played with little Carr, but gaze constantly deviated toward Sophia. Wanted to say something, but words stuck in throat. Had learned to obey mother without questioning, and breaking that pattern resulted harder than imagined. Sophia, in silence, continued fulfilling orders. Clean windows, straighten chairs, pick up crumbs from floor. Each task made her feel more invisible, as if slowly erasing from world surrounding her. Only thing keeping hope alive was memory of walks with father through town square, eating ice cream in summer, and listening to stories about ancient statues. That night, when Victoria finally retired to room, Sophia remained instant by window. From there, saw Mrs. Elena's figure talking with neighbor Clara. Both looked toward house with serious expression, exchanging words in low voice. Sophia understood then wasn't completely alone. Meanwhile, on West Coast, Alejandro Montesinos finished tense meeting with architects at hotel overlooking harbor. Suddenly, strange sensation crossed him like premonition. Daughter's image appeared in mind with same sad eyes had seen at last dinner. Businessman, man accustomed to handling figures and contracts, felt stab in chest, couldn't explain. Rose from meeting table and moved by irrepressible impulse, made unexpected decision. Would shorten trip and return home earlier than planned. Needed to see Sophia. Needed to make sure was okay. Didn't know. In that same moment, daughter cried in silence, hands cracked from detergent and heart clinging to hope of not having been forgotten. City overflowed with music and flowers for spring festivities, but in Montesinos' house reigned cutting silence. From windows arrived distant echo of street organs and popular celebrations' laughter, while inside tension could be cut with knife. Sophia, standing by sink, barely reached pile of plates with thin arms. Victoria, sitting on high chair, watched with severe gesture. "Faster, Sophia, don't have all night," ordered with voice loaded with impatience. Child, exhausted, could barely maintain balance. Water ran ceaselessly and soap burned in skin cracks. Stomach hurt from hunger, but knew any complaint would only bring greater punishment. Matthew sat at table with bowl of fresh fruit mother had prepared. Peeled tangerine and looked at stepsister with cloudy expression. Wasn't direct culprit of that injustice, but silence made him accomplice. Each segment ate tasted bitter, though didn't dare say it. Outside, fireworks from festival exploded in colors over sky. Brilliance filtered through curtains, tinting dining room with red and green flashes. Victoria, irritated by street noise, closed window with slam and directed anger toward child. "If you want dinner, first finish with all this." Not single glass should remain dirty. Sophia felt tears blurring vision. Exhaustion was defeating, and small hands trembled so much one of glasses almost slipped. Held breath and placed with great care on counter. Nobody applauded effort. Only heard Victoria's harsh voice. "Still floor left." At that precise instant, sound of key turning in main door's lock thundered through entire house. Victoria paled as if not expecting anyone. Sophia, heart pounding 1,000 times per hour, raised gaze. Silence became denser than ever. Don Alejandro Montesinos entered with firm step, still carrying leather briefcase from meetings. Had taken express train back from West Coast without warning, driven by that strange stab of concern accompanying since last dinner. Upon setting foot in living room, image unfolding before him froze blood. Victoria shouting, Sophia with red hands at sink, and Matthew sitting at table like mute spectator. Alejandro dropped briefcase to floor, unable to look away. Victoria tried to smile, but gesture broke under intensity of husband's gaze. Alejandro, didn't expect you back so soon, began saying with unsure tone, but he wasn't listening. Eyes were fixed on Sophia, on exhaustion engraved on childish face, on hands reddened by detergent. Heart hurt as if someone squeezing hard. Enough, Victoria, finally roared with voice so powerful, echo resonated through entire house. Silence fell abruptly. Victoria remained petrified, and Matthew dropped tangerine segment to floor. Sophia, surprised, released cloth holding and looked at him with gleaming eyes, full of mix of fear and hope. Room's air changed completely. For first time in long while, child felt justice could be on her side. Outside, group celebrating sang festive songs oblivious to silent battle waged in that house. Inside, tension accumulated like storm about to explode. Alejandro took another step toward daughter. Scene was about to change everything. Sound of plates falling in sink was only echo in that silence of fear. Alejandro had arrived unexpectedly, and what saw filled with unbearable mix of rage and pain. Sophia, trembling, kept gaze lowered, hands reddened by hot water and detergent. Victoria, for her part, tried to regain composure, adjusting dress while seeking words to soften scene. Alejandro, not what seems, murmured with forced smile. Just teaching her discipline. Children must learn to have responsibilities. Businessman fixed eyes on her, incredulous. Discipline? Making 8-year-old wash dishes until hands crack, leaving without dinner. Voice, normally firm and measured in board meetings, now trembled with contained emotion. Victoria tried to approach, but he raised hand, stopping cold. Don't say another word, thundered. Echo of voice resonated in house walls, louder than fireworks exploding in sky. Alejandro knelt beside Sophia and took hands with infinite delicacy. Contrast tore him apart. Small reddened palms, cracked fingers. Eyes filled with tears. Something hadn't allowed himself even in toughest moments of business life. My daughter, whispered, unable to say more. Sophia looked at him then with moist eyes, and from trembling lips came phrase breaking everyone's heart. Dad, won't leave me alone anymore? Time seemed to stop. Matthew, who until then had remained silent, lowered head ashamed. Victoria, on other hand, took step forward desperately. Alejandro, can't let yourself be manipulated by child. I've done best for everyone. But Alejandro no longer listened. In that instant, understood biggest mistake hadn't been marrying Victoria, but having relegated daughter to second place, trusting care to someone incapable of giving love. That absence was guilt now must repair. My daughter is taught with love, not humiliations. Shouted, and each word was hammer blow in air. Victoria retreated, mask of perfection finally broken. Face showed mix of fear and rage, but no longer had any power over situation. Matthew, with barely audible voice, dared for first time to speak. Mom, Sophia doesn't lie. I've seen everything. Boy hunched, but words remained floating in air like condemnation. Victoria looked at him horrified, unable to believe own son had turned against her. Alejandro breathed deeply, like someone making irreversible decision. This house is no longer yours, Victoria. Lost right to call yourself mother in front of my daughter. Pointed to door with gesture of unappealable authority. Silence that followed was unbearable. Victoria pressed lips, eyes full of fury and humiliation. Took son by arm, trying to drag with her, but Matthew resisted with tears in eyes. Don't want to go with you now, Mom, stammered. Own son's rejection was final blow. Victoria, completely defeated, left room with faltering steps. Door closed with slam, leaving behind echo seeming to announce end of era. Alejandro knelt before Sophia, hugged with all strength and lifted in arms. Never had felt such determination. Wouldn't allow anyone to hurt her again. Child hid face in chest, and for first time in long while felt safe. Fireworks exploded outside, illuminating windows with colored lights, but true brightness was inside, that of father who, amid tears, had decided to change life forever. Victoria was no longer there. Door slammed shut had marked end of her presence in Montesinos' family. In living room, arguments' echoes faded slowly, and in their place remained Alejandro's labored breathing, still with tears in eyes, and Sophia's slight tremor clinging to chest. He held her in arms for a long while, as if wanting to recover all hugs hadn't given in recent years. Shirt became damp with child's tears, but made no attempt to pull away. "Never again, Sophia," whispered with broken voice. "Never again will you be alone." And in that phrase wasn't empty promise, but firm conviction of man who'd understood mistake and was willing to amend it. Later, in kitchen now illuminated by warm light, Alejandro turned on stove and searched for eggs, potatoes, and onion. Hands accustomed to signing million-dollar contracts seemed clumsy peeling potatoes. Sophia watched from table, eyes still reddened, but little by little timid smile drew on lips. Couldn't believe father, man who always delegated everything to assistants, was preparing Spanish omelet just for her. At that moment, doorbell rang. Alejandro opened and found Mrs. Elena, who'd returned after hearing rumors of argument. Carried in hands box of typical festival donuts wrapped in white paper. "Thought you might need these tonight," said with tenderness. Upon entering, hugged Sophia as if her own granddaughter. Child clung to her with gratitude, and house atmosphere changed completely. Was no longer a place of fear, but of welcome. Matthew appeared behind with lowered gaze, approached slowly to Sophia and murmured, "Sorry, shouldn't have stayed silent." "You were right." Sophia looked at him surprised. For days had felt he was part of problem, but now saw in face genuine repentance of child trapped between obedience to mother and own conscience. Didn't respond with words, but nodded gently, accepting apology. Alejandro placed steaming omelet on table and served generous portions on simple plates. Mrs. Elena put donuts in center, and Sophia received one with gleaming eyes as if were greatest treasure. Child bit piece, and between sweet anise flavor and kitchen warmth felt something had forgotten. Safety of home. While eating, could hear fireworks from festival in sky. Dining room windows illuminated with red, green, and golden flashes. Alejandro carried Sophia in arms to window so could see fireworks better. She rested head on shoulder and let escape light. Clear laugh like bells announcing childhood's rebirth. Mrs. Elena from table murmured, "This is how should be, Mr. Alejandro. True wealth is here, in what's built with love." He nodded silently, moved. There was no commercial deal nor building erected by company that could equal value of that moment. On street, neighbors celebrated with guitars and castanets, sharing wine and traditional songs. Aroma of donuts and carnations floated in air. Inside Montesinos' house, on other hand, celebration was intimate and profound. Father and daughter reuniting, small family beginning to heal. Alejandro gently squeezed Sophia's shoulders as they watched last flashes in night sky. No more words were needed. She understood that embrace was promise of different future. Future full of Spanish omelets, laughter, and certainty would never again be alone. Weeks turned into new rhythm. House that once seemed cold fortress slowly transformed. Windows that before only let in harsh light now opened to morning breeze. Rooms echoing with tension began filling with small conversations, hesitant laughs, sounds of normalcy. Alejandro changed too. Man who before hid behind contracts and business trips now organized schedule around daughter. Mornings began with breakfast together. Learned to prepare pancakes way Sophia liked, with honey and fresh berries. Learned to listen to silences, understand gestures, read emotions in daughter's eyes. Learned being father meant being present in small moments, tying shoelaces, braiding hair, sitting on floor to play with dolls. One afternoon, several weeks after that terrible night, they had visitor. Mrs. Elena came for tea, bringing homemade cookies. Had become trusted friend, someone Sophia felt safe around. They shared meal, stories, gentle laughter. House that once knew only tension now hosted warmth. After tea, Mrs. Elena asked Sophia to show drawings. Sophia looked at father, seeking permission, reassurance. He nodded encouragingly. She ran to room and returned with stack of papers, colorful drawings of flowers, sunshine, And always, always, two figures holding hands. Mrs. Elena had tears in eyes. "She's healing," whispered to Alejandro. "Can see it in art. Fear is fading. Hope is growing." Alejandro's chest swelled with emotion. And Sophia, for first time in so long, felt something she'd almost forgotten. Felt worthy. Felt loved. Felt whole. As guests left and evening settled, Alejandro helped Sophia prepare for bed. Routine they'd developed over weeks. Comfortable, filled with small moments of connection. "Dad?" Sophia said as he tucked blanket around her. "Yes, sweetheart." "Thank you for coming back." Alejandro felt throat tighten. Knelt beside bed, took her hand. "We'll never leave again, my love. You're everything to me." "You're everything to me too, Dad." He kissed her forehead. "Love you so much. We'll spend rest of life making up for time wasn't there. You're here now. That's enough. Now I speak to you who stayed until end of this story. Perhaps felt rage, perhaps lump in throat, perhaps memories preferring not to visit. Don't know what life put on your table. Losses, absences, difficult silences. But know you're listening to this story for reason, and somehow is also yours. Because everyone understands what it is to fear losing what loves. Everyone understands what it is to want at least once someone to look calmly and listen without hurry. If today you need place where simply to be, let this corner be bit of that. If carry scar outside or inside, let it remind not what ended but what was possible to start again. Stories like this remind us not all new beginnings have to be loud. Some just have to be honest. Thank you for watching until end. Stories like this aren't easy to tell but are important because speak of what makes us human. If this story reached your soul, watch next channel video too. Perhaps it will also find you where you are now,